Hello and welcome to Firstpost Spotlight, your front row seats to the stories shaping our world. From breaking news to controversy speaking global conversations, we are here to connect the dots, challenge the narratives and bring clarity to the chaos. I am Gushin Galan and this is your deep dive into the news that matters. But first, let's take a look at the latest headlines. A Gaza-bound boat carrying aid material faces an attack by Israeli drones in international waters off Malta, ahead of its arrival at the Palestinian territory, as per a group of activists. Washington's envoy warns that US President Donald Trump could skip the upcoming NATO summit if other members of the defense alliance do not act on burden sharing, as per the German media reports. Uganda's military chief claims he had abducted the bodyguard of main opposition leader Bobi Wine and was torturing him in his basement days after his party said he went missing. Nigel Farage's right-wing Reform UK wins a fifth parliamentary seat, its first post as mayor and many positions on local councils in early election results, delivering a heavy blow to Britain's two establishment parties. And British comedian and actor Russell Brand appears before a London court on multiple charges of sexual assault, including 2 counts of rape. Hello and welcome. We begin with the latest from the Indian subcontinent, where New Delhi's push to punish the perpetrators of Pahalgam terror attack is seen to be close to a decisive action on the ground. In the latest, the US Vice President J.D. Vance, who himself was in India when terrorists killed the unarmed civilians on April 22, was strongly rebuked Pakistan for sponsoring terror. In an interview, Vance said, and I quote, "We hope, frankly, that Pakistan, to the extent that they are responsible, cooperates with India to make sure that the terrorists sometimes operating in the territory are hunted down and dealt with." End quote. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh also spoke to the US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Hegseth reportedly assured his Indian counterpart that the US stands in solidarity with India and supports India's fight against terror. Now, since the terror attack, India has made it clear that the perpetrators, backers and planners of the Pahalgam terror attack must be brought to justice. In fact, the Minister of Home Affairs, Amit Shah, even declared that India will give a befitting reply to Pakistan-sponsored terrorism.
कश्मीर में जो आतंकवाद चला रहे हैं, उनके खिलाफ जीरो टॉलरेंस का नीति है। और आज वो ये न समझ ले कि हमारे 27 नागरिकों का जान लेकर ये लड़ाई जीते हो, कि लड़ाई का अंत नहीं है। हर व्यक्ति को चुन चुन कर जवाब भी मिलेगा, जवाब भी लिया जाएगा।
Anticipating a military response from India, Pakistan Army rushed reinforcements to the line of control. Pakistan also resorted to unprovoked firing during the intervening night of May 1 and 2 along several locations across the LOC. Meanwhile, the Indian Air Force carried out a flypast on the Ganga Expressway in Uttar Pradesh. It also performed the takeoff and landing exercises. The exercise was being organized to assess the expressway's potential use as an alternative runway during times of war or national emergencies as the country prepares a response to Pakistan-backed terror. Now, as India bolsters its attacking posture against Pakistan-backed terrorism, Islamabad yet again admitted to the country's links with terror in the region. Former Pakistani Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto acknowledged Pakistan's past involvement with terror operatives, conceding the nation's historical ties to extremism. His admission follows similar remarks by Pakistan's Defense Minister Khwaja Asif, who earlier spoke of Islamabad's role in backing and funding terrorist groups. So, with Pakistan yet again acknowledging its past ties to terrorism and India setting up the frontier of its retaliation, the stage is set for a showdown. All that remains to be seen is how will India's resolve to defeat Pak-sponsored terror play out in the coming days. Moving on to West Asia, where tensions continue to escalate between Israel and Yemen-based Houthis. The Israeli military has confirmed that it intercepted a missile launch from Yemen earlier today. Sirens blared in several areas across Israel, prompting a swift response from the country's defense systems. According to the Israeli military, the missile was successfully intercepted before it could enter Israeli airspace. And now, in the latest, the attack has been claimed by Yemen's Houthi rebels, who are backed by Iran. In a statement, the Houthis said that they targeted an airbase east of the occupied area of Haifa and claimed the use of a hypersonic ballistic missile. This claim, however, has not been verified yet. This latest incident marks another in a series of attacks carried out by the Houthis against Israel since the start of Gaza war in October 2023. The group, aligned with Iran's Axis of Resistance, has positioned itself as a defender of Palestinians in Gaza. The Houthi military spokesman reiterated in a statement that their support operations will continue until the aggression against Gaza ceases and the siege is lifted. Beyond these direct attacks on Israel, the Houthis have also intensified their targeting of merchant vessels in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden, leading to retaliatory strikes from Israel, the United States and Britain. The United States has also ramped up its bombing campaign in Yemen following President Trump's inauguration. Houthi media reported this week that U.S. strikes on their stronghold of Sada resulted in the deaths of at least 68 people identified as African migrants held at a detention center. The United States stated in April that its strikes against Houthis since mid-March had hit over 1,000 targets in Yemen, claiming to have killed hundreds of Houthi fighters. In fact, just last night, Houthi media reported that 3 people were wounded in a U.S. airstrike in the Al-Wahda district. This escalating cycle of attacks and counterattacks underscores the deeply volatile situation in West Asia and the far-reaching consequences of the ongoing conflict in Gaza. Now let's turn our attention to the U.S., where concerns are mounting for green card holders as reports emerge of increased scrutiny at airports, border crossings, and other U.S. ports of entry. The Trump administration's sweeping immigration restrictions have legal permanent residents concerned about their status. Reports suggest that the Trump administration's stricter immigration enforcement is being felt by green card holders. Immigration lawyers are reporting a surge in inquiries from concerned residents. Even those with legal permanent status are worried about potential detention or deportation upon re-entry. A green card is officially a permanent resident card that grants the legal right to live and work permanently in the United States. Millions hold this status, enjoying rights like Social Security, Medicare eligibility, and the ability to apply for citizenship. However, recent accounts suggest a shifting in how these long-term residents are being treated at the border. Green card holders are generally permitted to travel freely, but there are crucial caveats. Committing any crime, even minor offenses, can jeopardize their entry or lead to deportation. Furthermore, inconsistencies in travel documents can raise red flags. While a green card holder can spend up to a year outside the U.S., stays longer than 6 months can trigger closer scrutiny and potentially impact their future citizenship eligibility. Reportedly, some returning residents say they are being pressured by Customs and Border Protection agents to abandon their green card status. These incidents come amid the Trump administration's implementation of what they call advanced vetting at border checkpoints. These measures have already prompted some allied nations to issue updated travel advisories for their citizens visiting the United States. The Department of Homeland Security also recently announced it would screen immigrants' social media for evidence of anti-Semitism, potentially leading to the denial of immigration benefits, including green cards. These policies also extend to foreign students linked to institutions with alleged anti-Semitic activity. In fact, as a precautionary measure for green card holders, experts advise applying for a re-entry permit if they are planning to be outside the US for more than 6 months. This in turn provides them documentation of intent to maintain permanent residency. Frequent travelers are also advised to enroll in the Global Entry Program to expedite their clearance upon returning to the United States. The current immigration climate in the United States has made travel to the US an anxious journey for many. And now, even green card holders aren't being spared. Finally, shifting focus to the Philippines, where former President Rodrigo Duterte's arrest by International Criminal Court for his controversial war against drugs continues to loom large. In the latest, former President Duterte has sought the dismissal of his case at The Hague. His lawyers argue the International Criminal Court does not have jurisdiction in the Philippines. For a matter of fact, the 38-page filing submitted to the ICC even claims that the World Court overstepped its authority by approving the investigation into Duterte's war on drugs, which Manila admits killed over 6,000 people. The former president's lawyers point to the timeline of the Philippines' exit from the Rome Statute, which governs the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court. The Philippines joined the Rome Statute in 2011, and by March 2018, when Duterte was president, Manila notified the United Nations of its withdrawal from the Rome Statute. The withdrawal then became effective starting March 2019. President Duterte's lawyers argue that the ICC authorized the investigation into war on drugs case over 2 years after Manila's exit from Rome Statute in September 2021. Duterte's lawyers cite the Article 12, Clause 2 of the Rome Statute, which they claim suggests a country must be a party to the ICC when the court exercises its jurisdiction. Duterte was arrested by the Interpol on an ICC warrant in March this year and sent to a detention facility at The Hague a day later. This, Duterte's lawyers point out, was about 6 years after Manila's formal exit from the ICC. But the International Criminal Court, in its arrest warrant, pointed out that the case against Rodrigo Duterte falls within its jurisdiction. The World Court says it's because the alleged crimes against humanity investigated by it occurred between November 2011 to March 2019, when Manila was still a member of the ICC. As the former President Duterte remains inside Hague-based detention facility, back home in the Philippines, the country is in the middle of an election campaign for the upcoming Senate votes. In this election, Duterte's allies have been witnessing a boost in their popularity and have been ranking higher in polls. The outrage triggered by the former president's arrest is looming large over the polls as Duterte's supporters demand his release. And as the legal battle unfolds on the global stage, Duterte's arrest continues to cast a long political shadow back home, igniting fury, fueling campaigns, and forcing a nation to confront its past even as it votes for its future. And that wraps up today's edition of Firstpost Spotlight. We will be back next week, same time, with more stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and stay tuned to Firstpost.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.
Greeting you with aloha and namaste.
I love India.
Presence, occupation of a territory by another country pertains to India, what we saw in Kashmir.
How do you see Trump's America?
Yes, the current administration behaves differently from the previous administration.
Are you saying that there are foreign powers who are trying to bring down the current government in Syria?
Exactly.
Bluntly, Iran, maybe Russia too.
Prime Minister Modi committed to South-South, cooperation.
not over 50%.
Is Ukraine prepared to pay the price for that peace?
No compromises at the cost of territorial integrity and sovereignty.